Hi, I'm Jody. Today I'd like to show you how to play Reveal by Greenfish Games. Reveal is a fun and easy card game of strategy and chance for 2 to 4 players. All you need to play Reveal is a deck of Reveal cards and enough space to lay them out. Or, as I'll show you today, you can play online at tabletopia.com. You'll find links in the description to the online game at tabletopia.com, as well as downloadable instructions and a print and play version, and information on how to buy Reveal cards to play with friends. Let's get started. Reveal is a card game in which each card simply represents a color. There are a total of 116 cards. 112 of the cards are individual color cards. 14 of each of the following colors: blue, black, yellow, pink, green, white, red, and orange. There are also 4 multicolored wild cards. These can represent any color in the game. Let's start by looking at what the end of the game, or hand of Reveal, looks like, so you can better understand the goal of the game. I'll demonstrate a 2-player game now, and in a future video, show you how to adjust the game for 3 to 4 players. In this 2-player game, you're viewing the table from the blue player's point of view. The red player is sitting across from you. The hand is finished, and the players are counting their scores. The goal of Reveal is to get the highest number of matching color cards in your scoring column. But you can only count sets of 3 or more, and you can only use wild cards to represent one color. In this hand, blue chose the center column as their scoring column by placing their final card in their scoring row at the end of the center column. Red chose the column nearest the discard pile in the same way. Let's count Red's score first. At first glance, you might guess that Red would have 6 points. After all, they have 3 green cards, and if you count the wild card as a blue card, they also have 3 blue cards, making a total of 6. However, in Reveal, cards must be qualified before they can be counted. First, you start with a scoring root. There must be at least one natural, not wild, card in the base rows or center section of the player's scoring column for that player to score with that color. This is the scoring root card. The scoring root card is qualified and contributes 1 point to the player's score. The base cards are the cards in the 3 rows in the center section. So for Red, this would be the orange, green, and white cards. That means that Red can only score with orange, green, and white. So the 3 blue cards do not score because there are no other blue cards in Red's base rows. Red doesn't have 3 or more orange or white cards in their scoring columns, so orange and white can't score. The only cards in Red's base rows that has a chance of scoring is the green card. This means the green card is the scoring root and it qualifies. Secondly, any other cards in the player's base rows that match the scoring root qualify. There are no other green cards in Red's base rows, so there are no more cards that qualify in Red's base rows. Next, the player checks their player rows for qualifying cards. The player rows are the rows that are closest to the player. Red has 2 blue cards, and the wild card in the scoring column of their player rows. A card qualifies in the scoring column of the player rows if it matches a scoring root card. In Red's case, we have only one scoring root, and it is green. Red doesn't have any other green cards in the scoring column of their player rows, but they do have a wild card. A wild card can be any color. Red can say that it will be green. They can now have a qualifying card in the scoring column of their player rows. So far, Red has 2 qualifying green cards. If a player has qualifying cards in the scoring column of both their base rows and their player rows, then and only then can they score qualifying cards in the scoring column of the opponent's rows. If Red had not had a wild card or a green card in the scoring column of their player rows, they would not have been able to count any cards in the scoring column of their opponent's player rows. Red meets the requirement of having qualifying cards in the scoring column of their base and player rows, so they can now also count the green cards in the scoring column of Blue's player rows. In this case, there are 2 green cards and a black card. This means red has 2 more qualifying green cards, bringing their score to 4. Finally, a player can count their final card if it matches the scoring route. Red's final card is a red card, so it doesn't add to their score. Red's final score for this hand is 4. Now let's move on to blue to see their score. Just like before, we start with the base rows in blue's scoring column. Blue has blue, wild, and red cards. A quick look at the cards reveals that red is the only color that has a chance of scoring. But what about the white, you might ask? Well, there are 2 reasons. First, you might be thinking that the wild card at the center could act as a white card. While it could be a white card, it could not be the scoring route, since a scoring route needs to be a natural card. A wild card cannot be used to set the scoring color. Second, as the rules state, a player must have qualifying cards in the scoring column of both their base rows and their player rows before a player can count any cards in the scoring column of their opponent's rows. In this case, blue only has red cards in the scoring column of their own player rows, so they cannot count the white cards in red's player rows. Since red is the only color that blue can score with, they say the center wild card will be red. This gives them 2 red cards in the base rows. Blue can then add the 3 red cards in the scoring column of their player rows, raising their score to 5. Blue's final card is black, so it doesn't score, making blue's total score 5. That means blue has won this hand with a score of 5 to red's 4. A full game of reveal is usually played in 1 or more hands, ending after a predetermined number of hands or when the combined score of one player reaches a predetermined score total at the end of a hand. For example, you can agree to play the best 5 out of 7 hands, or the first one to 21 points, or any variation you like. You can count actual points or simply count winning hands. It's up to you. Now that you've seen how a hand ends and how to score in reveal, let's rewind this game back to the start. This is how the game begins. The cards are shuffled and dealt. 3 cards are placed face up in the center row of the base rows. 3 cards are placed face down in the other 2 base rows. Then, alternating between each player, build stacks of 3 cards, each face down, for each player row. Then, 1 card is placed face down for each player's final card. Finally, take the remaining cards and place them face down as the draw pile. One of the nice things about playing online at Tabletopia.com is that the setup is done for you. Play proceeds in rounds. There are 3 play rounds and then a final round. The final round is followed by the grand reveal and scoring for that hand. Each play round has 4 phases: a reveal phase, followed by a draw and swap phase, then ending with a play phase. Let's watch as blue and red play round 1. They start with the draw phase. Blue picks up their round 1 play stack and holds the cards in their hand. Red does the same thing. Players don't have to take turns. Both players can complete the round on their own at their own pace. Next comes the swap phase. In round 1, each player can choose to swap 1 card from their hand with 1 card from the top of the draw pile. In this hand, we see blue choosing to swap their white card by placing it face down in the discard pile, and then taking a card from the draw pile into their hand. Blue then plays the cards from their hand face down on their play row 1. This is the play phase. Blue is done for this round. It's a good idea to try to keep track of the cards you're playing and try to remember where you place them. In fact, this is a key component in success. Red also chooses to swap 1 card and plays their cards face down on their side, ending their round. When both players have finished, round 2 can begin. To start round 2, 1 player turns over all the cards in the base row closest to them. It doesn't matter which player does this. The other player will do the same to begin round 3. In this case, red revealed the base row on their side. Play continues with the same 4 phases as round 1, except that during the swap phase, Players can now choose to swap up to 2 cards. However, they must discard all cards at one time. They cannot discard one card and then draw a card and then decide to discard another. Blue and red draw their cards from the round 2 play stacks. This time, red chooses to only swap one card even though they could have swapped 2. Then they play their cards in play row 2. Blue chooses not to swap any cards and then plays their cards. Once both players have finished round 2, blue reveals the last base row to begin round 3. Just as before, players draw their play stack and choose any cards they want to swap. In round 3, they can swap up to 3 cards. Then they play their cards. When both players have finished round 3, the final round can begin. In the final round, each player places their final card at the end of the column they want to select as their scoring column. Players must not look at the color of their final card. Players can change their minds about which column they have chosen for any reason, even or especially based on what column their opponent is choosing. Both players can even select the same column. When both players have confirmed their final scoring column, play proceeds to the grand reveal and scoring. The grand reveal is the part of the hand where the face-down cards are flipped over to reveal their colors. Technically, it doesn't matter in what order you turn your cards over, but it can add suspense if you reveal them one by one or in sections. It's up to you. Enjoy, make it fun. Then you can count the scores like we did at the beginning of the video. The important thing to remember is that for cards to count, they must be qualified, and that means you start in the center section, then move to your own cards, and finally your opponent's cards to total your score. And unlike this example, it is possible to be able to score more than one color for a player if the cards meet the requirements. While very rare, it is possible for a player to score all 10 points in a hand. That's it. That's how you play Reveal. I hope you like it. If you have questions, please let me know in the comments or visit the Greenfish Games website at the link below for more information. Have fun!